the words that we speak, Lord. I ask, Lord, that you just allow us to be your hands and feet today. I pray, Lord, that you just cover Able Electric and every man that works here.
Yes, Father.
Lord, we thank you for your blood, Jesus, Lord. We just thank you, Lord. Lord, today, may we go out and just give you all the honor and all the glory. In Jesus' name.
Amen.
We're experiencing technical difficulty.
I can sing a song.
No.
I believe you can.
I mean, Lord says make a joyful noise. It might be painful to y'all, but it's joyful to me.
Never seen it have a sound good.
You gotta hear a joyful screech.
You
Amen.
Every single day for about a week. Justin was my counselor and I could not find my laptop case. And I'm not kidding, 4 or 5 times throughout that week, something happened where somebody wanted to go get funky and drop this thing, or drop something on it, or do something crazy. In the words of Josh, acting monkey. It was almost bad a couple of times, not because it hurt my computer, because I got a little bit of attitude about it. Well, hello.
Hello.
Hola.
Please.
Como está?
Lee saw me this morning. I was walking up. I said, "Good morning, shop kitty." He said, "Good morning, shop preacher." I don't quite like that. Makes me nervous. Hey, what's up? What you been up to?
Oh, he's hanging out like a peddler on the road.
Yeah.
I got to meet like an assistant preacher from Evangel Temple at the soccer field last night. It was a nice little conversation.
Very cool.
His daughter's on our daughter's team.
Very cool.
Pastor Brent.
Yeah,
He,
Brent.
he met Pastor Brent last night.
He told me.
Oh, he's so
He's
cool,
an
man.
awesome man of God.
I want to share something right real quick. Like a year ago,
Mm-hmm.
Pastor Brent was at the gym early one morning waiting for one of his friends who happened to be a fireman in the range, and the dude never showed up. Like an hour and a half into it, so Pastor Brent, they did a whole sermon, a service on it. Pastor Brent was like, "This is not like him. He's has his etiquette. Is that the right word?
Mm-hmm.
He shows up on time." And so he called his wife, and the wife was like, "I don't know. He hadn't called. He ain't answering his phone." What had happened was they had to go early morning fire at a house, and this man got stuck in this burning, blaze down house, right? And I think it was like the laundry room.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way he could get out, he looked up. There was this window, but it had bars on it.
Mm.
Old type house, like the bar. And he couldn't even jump up. It was hot. He had all his gear on him, and what it boiled down to was that this was the impossible, and we know the God we serve specializes in the impossible. The man said he took one jump, and when he got up there, he expected he was going to grab hold to the bars,
Mm-hmm.
and then try to go from there. He took one jump and went through the window. The bars fell right out. His tank and everything just fit right through this 1 foot window.
Yeah,
Just like that.
A small window. Yeah.
I went right on through it.
Right on through it.
Amazing.
Brick exterior wall.
Mhm.
Wasn't like you can just bust through the sheetrock internal.
Now that was Brent.
One of his best
Oh,
friends.
okay.
They had all the firemen there, and they talked about it at the service. It was good.
Yeah, you were there that day, right?
Yeah.
They just went head first, bars and everything.
Bars and all.
It's crazy.
Pretty serious fire too.
Yeah,
It was,
They had to get out of there.
they had to go. They had to get out. God sees that type of stuff.
That would be my brain the minute that I got out of the truck. I'd be like, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out. I gotta go.
Yeah. If somebody was in there dying, you probably have a different.
Oh no, I don't mean like leaving. I mean like that. Like my plan is to escape. Like I'm not getting stuck in this building. You know what I'm saying? Like I gotta get out of here with everybody inside it.
isn't there a verse that says something about that?
Probably.
Not
Probably
always makes a way
not.
of escape.
Always gives means of right. Yeah, that's two of those things that like you want to put up like, yeah, I always give you means of escape. Then there's that other one. He's like with those who endure to the end, and I'm like, oh, I don't know if I want to endure to the end. Jesus. Oh, well, good. Amen.
Everybody should have your new inserts.
Yeah, we
Put them in there yesterday.
Chris printed those off yesterday.
It's got October 23 at the top, 2018.
Totally wrong. Sorry about the dates, guys. Good thing is you can remember them as the only notes in your notebook that will be dated from October 2 years ago. Cause I stole all these notes I stole offline.
Sir.
It's so not true. So not true.
Can't say that on tape.
It's okay. I can say it's not true on tape. Whatever you say on the internet, it has to be true.
Beans want to be on Facebook.
Like, well, I'm not listening to them no more. That dude said he stole something.
Uh-oh.
I wanna share a verse, y'all.
Go ahead, Justin.
Okay. This is, out of Passion Translation, Psalm 147, 5.
Mm.
How great is our God, there's absolutely nothing in his power he cannot accomplish, and he has infinite understanding of everything.
Mm.
That whole Psalm 147 is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Those about last, what is it, maybe 15, 20 songs. Boy, they are long and they are slap full of a bunch of good stuff too. Long, long, long. But the short ones are very easy to memorize. The long ones are very good to pull, like seasonal one-liners out of. Not to pick and choose, but to snack one up and use it for whatever you're going through in the middle of that moment. I wish my stuff would load. Oh, that's fine. Sometimes you gotta have Wi-Fi.
Yes,
You know what I'm saying?
I do.
That'll preach. Sometimes you just gotta be connected to get the download. You know what I'm saying?
Sometimes you gotta take it off Wi-Fi and get plugged in.
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes you get your car charged up, Wi-Fi or not, you just gotta get it charged up.
Yeah. Wi-Fi gets a little staticky sometimes.
We used to do these things at school, man, that are a lot of fun. I've actually thought about trying to hit you guys with it sometimes just on the fly, but I've never explained it, so it wouldn't make sense. We used to do these things called 30-second sermons. But I'd give you like a paper clip and a rubber band. It'd be like 30-second sermon on this paper clip or a rubber band. Or we'd do it for like the new students would come in and we'd do college days, and we'd have like a bin full of stuff and a magnet, a planner, you know what I'm saying, just a whole bunch of stuff, and we'd have like some of the seasoned students would get up there, and I'm talking tear off and bring the house down on something as easy as a magnet or a planner or a pen, you know what I'm saying, just something silly and random. But we'll do it for things that don't even matter. We're like, hey, 30-second sermon on this gas tank right here. Just at random for no reason. We're like, oh, bro, if you ain't got no gas in the tank, you're going to burn out. And preach it, you know what I'm saying? Preach the paint off the walls. We sat there and did it over some crazy stuff. But it's fun. We have a lot of fun with that. It's good practice. Because, man, some of y'all have seen it. Some of y'all that have been there. And some of y'all don't even know. But there'll be times where, like, we'll get out of, like, I don't know, hour and a half, almost 2 hour worship settings, and then Donnie will walk up to you right in the middle of transition and be like, hey, do offering. Or, hey, close altar call. Or, hey, you know, people are like deer in the headlights, and he's like, gotta have that word ready. And they're like, but I don't. And he's like, well, you better get one. Like, he's not about to let them off the hook with it, but you gotta be ready to be able to spit some stuff out like that sometimes, because there'll be moments where somebody asks you to just because they know that you've got it, and just because you ain't been stewing over something specific don't mean you don't have something up on the inside of you. So you got to sit and think, pray for a second, let that go. Or it's just better to have been like in the Word the day before, so everything's fresh on your mind. That's why you should always be paying attention to what's going on. But we're here. Last little bit. We probably could finish this today, but I don't know if we will or not.
What y'all feel is leaving it?
He's at home today.
Yeah.
Huh?
What?
You know?
Yeah, he's sick? No, he's not sick.
You don't get sick, really. I think I've seen him sick like twice since I've known him.
Depends on the town. He's at home with Grace.
Mm-hmm.
Family
I'll
day?
handle
Yeah.
everything and let Chris answer all the questions.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I understand.
I'll show up.
Yeah. It's hard being a boss, you know what I mean?
We do without you, bro.
It's really hard being a boss, I understand.
I had to tell myself this morning, so I'm aboard. I got some decent guys. I'm like, man, I guess I'm to the point where I do this. Like, I don't.
This is my job. This is my life.
Yeah, they took me from asking from me. It's okay though. This too shall pass.
Just talking into existence.
Right. I mean, yeah.
This too shall pass.
Well, really, like from the street, the house looks big.
Yeah, yeah.
You look at the prints, and it's the same old story. Like, what are you even worried about?
Yeah.
It's really super.
Take you.
You about to go.
It looks huge.
You about to go exercise some dominion over that house.
house is as big as his shop.
Yeah,
Don't we
well,
ever win?
it is. It's a big land.
It's bigger than his
It's
shop.
okay. You know what I'm saying? One room at a time.
Yes, sir.
It's not.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
I mean, really. You know what I mean?
Positive middle attitude.
Yeah. Oh, at first, man, I was scared to death. Like, oh my goodness, I'm not good. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough.
You got to jump on out there.
Of course, yeah.
Sometimes.
Josh was like, really, the thing that feels uncomfortable to you right now is the pressure.
Mm.
He's like, but yeah.
That's what happens when you're a boss, man. You gotta.
I guess.
That's pretty good for someone that.
August will be 2 years, and he really didn't send me off the field till October.
Wow. It's been 2 years.
Yeah.
Stuff moves fast, don't it?
That's about the time that most people transition in residency, about 2 years.
Mm.
Most
Yeah. He
good,
took me on
good
the year.
folks.
I would do this year and then go to commercial.
Uh-oh.
So there's a break coming.
Shots fired.
Yeah.
Listen, listen.
That's funny,
We'll
man.
see.
Well, good.
I can tell you that big jack
everything
camera.
all over again.
Yeah.
It is. I don't.
Big jackhammer, big
Apparently, I
concrete
heard
sauce.
it's 277. You hit by 277. David Williams told me you will go home and reevaluate your whole life.
Bro, I'm the one that hits the 277. I bite it and it runs away from me, bro.
Yeah, you'll be careful for the next month or two. After you will be taking very much caution.
All
He
I
said you're
all I
going
think
home.
about
You're
every
all thinking
time.
about becoming a painter.
And then
Yeah.
no, you'll get a little slack after a couple months, get hit again, and then you'll be like,
All
whoa.
right, I got this. We can do it now.
Yeah.
All I think about, I remember David telling me one time he got buzzed, and all I could think about was that scene from Home Alone when Marv is getting shocked down at the bottom of the thing, and he's like jolting around, and then there's his hair puffed up, and then it's like just a full skeleton with sparks and everything flying everywhere. I was like, was it like that? Is that why you ain't got no hair? And he's like, yeah, probably has something to do with it.
Yeah.
But
277 will
amen.
light you up. No
we
doubt.
are good. So we made what, halfway through number 7 yesterday? Faith produces boldness to speak. And we read Acts 2 and 14. We read 2 Corinthians 4 and 13. We talked about how evangelism is not an option that you select when you get radical. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. You cannot have true faith and keep your mouth shut about what God's doing. Yikes. Here we go. And this is something that we all know. It just hurts to hear it like this. If you keep your mouth shut, it's not because you're timid. It's because you lack faith. Bottom line. And, we've discussed this a lot of times. It's what it always comes back to, and you'll run yourself around and be like, oh, okay. So, like, imagine if we're talking about it in the form of a tree or a bush or a branch or whatever you want to talk about. I've got all the reasons that I say, that I don't talk about stuff as much as I should. Most of it has to do with, I don't have time. I was busy. They didn't look receptive. I didn't know what to say. I was scared I was going to mess it up. Yada blah, which really all comes down to lacking faith. Like I hear Josh talk about it all the time, because what, if you sow a seed and it produces of its own kind. So if I sow time into somebody, somewhere along the line, I'm going to reap some extra time. So I don't really ride for that whole fact that and I know it's kind of a inadvertent ploy, but I don't quite enjoy it, is when people are like, I tithed and I ended up, getting 6 hours worth of work done in 3 hours. I'm like, well, that's great, but maybe that's just because you were being more productive that day. Maybe, perhaps, I'm not sure. I don't quite think that God's going to come back and say, hey, if you, everything that you sow of is going to produce of its own kind except money. I don't think. I'm pretty sure that God, when you sow into kingdom finance, He's going to bless you with finance so that you can continue to sow in the kingdom finance. He gives seed to the what? To the sower, right? So if I'm going to sit there and sow, then He's going to sit there and bless, and that's just how He works, because He's good like that.
That's right.
So you see all of these, right? It's not because you're timid, it's because you lack faith. You get into places, I didn't have enough time, so you don't think that God's going to let you make up time that you, quote unquote, wasted while you were telling somebody about Him? I don't think so. I think He loves you enough to make that time up. I was scared I was going to mess it up, so you don't think He can handle His own word? I don't think so. I'm pretty sure He spoke it. I think He can handle that. Little things like that. This is what we talked about yesterday. 85% of people won to the Lord, are won by people who have themselves been saved less than 12 months. Why? Because religion is quiet, but faith is vocal. When you get to that point where something has gripped you and you cannot get out of its grip, you have no choice but to say something about it. And that's a principle through and through, all the way around. You find yourself all the time, there are things that, good or bad, have a hold on you, and unless you're trying to hide it, it's going to come out. You're going to share it with somebody. Hey, I'm dealing with this. Hey, I'm excited about this. Hey, this is frustrating me. Hey, can you pray with me about this? Whatever it is that has a grip on you in the moment is going to continually keep itself on the front of your mind, at the top of your heart, and it's always going to come out of your mouth. The same thing goes for, now, like we said, that's one of those flip-flops. Could be natural, could be spiritual, but expressly in this spot, in the spiritual aspect, when there's something that has happened on the inside of you that has made you feel a way that you've never felt in your entire life, it has changed the way that your life functions, the way that your mind functions, the way that your heart functions, your relationships with your parents, with your kids, with your spouse, with your friends, with your boss, and everything else in between. There's a part of our carnal nature that wants to keep that to ourselves because we're still locked up in how good can it get for us above everybody else that I come in contact with. But there's not a single bit of that. You have to understand that when Jesus came and shared exactly who he was, the Bible says that he's firstborn of many brethren, and we sit in his inheritance. Because of what he did, he shares what he receives with us. There's not an ounce of him that does what we try to do and use it to get ahead of everybody else and say that we're kind of up here, or we've climbed the ladder a little bit, or we're benefiting. And when I'm not going to share with you how, I'm not going to give you, you know what I'm saying? Like, things like that bother me. They pester me because it proves to me that, yes, I don't think you've not been saved, but I don't quite think you understand the whole purpose of it. If it's the will of the Lord that all men should come to know him, and we are avenues of the Lord's working while we're here, that means it is our job to be that way that they come to know him, right? Hello, this is Jesus. Nice to meet you. You go through Jesus to the Father, everything works out just fine. So you see that a lot. There will be people that have been in this for a very long time and have kind of taken it for granted, or are stuck in a rut or a cycle or whatever you want to call it, and they don't quite get as excited about the things that they used to get excited about. And then, we talk about things a lot. They'll be like, oh, look at all those young people. Way too radical. They're way too loud. They bother everybody too much. They express themselves too loud. They dance, and that's weird. They shout, and that's weird. And they pray for each other, like, in public, and they lay hands on each other. That's weird. That's extra. I come across something that I was reading a couple of years ago, came up on my Facebook memories yesterday. It says, I'm doing too much because you're not doing enough. So the reason you see us out here, and I see us loosely, whatever group that you identify with, that everybody's always bashing you for doing quote-unquote too much, is because I'm trying to make up for the lack that you're providing. Thank you for that. You know what I mean?
Yes.
We got people, when we went out to do that pizza ministry the other day, there were people commenting after we posted about it, and they're like, oh, you're only posting about this because you want recognition. Oh, you're out here giving stuff away just so you can get looked at. And I'm like, no, I'm out here giving stuff away because, and ain't nobody else ever taking care of these people.
That's right.
And they don't know what that feels like.
You don't really see the love of Christ, man. Like, and that's something that I've seen. Like, I can't expect someone who isn't spirit filled. I can't get a godly response out of someone. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like, something said is gonna rub them the wrong way because
They don't have ears to hear,
Right.
or eyes to see.
So, but man, like, there's, that's why it's so important to love one another, because there's hardly any love, other than us showing it to people. And then even the word says, like, even the tax collectors love their own kind, or they, you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So,
Do you think that the people may just be like jealous of what you have and how,
I mean, so I've seen that too. I was talking to Joe the other day, and him and the other guy, Josh Freeman, and he said that there's a guy at work that kind of, they make him uncomfortable because of the anointing they carry, because of what's inside of them, and there's people like that. Like, oh man, I don't, you come up and you tell people you love them, and they don't understand it. First thought is, what do you want?
Yeah.
And that's what the world's done to them. I mean, we've all been there. Before Christ, like, we've all been there. Like, what is your hidden motives? Like, what do you really got going on it's crazy. And I was like, it's intimidating to them, the Jesus that's in you, or, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it can go wild from there. And I hope that don't rub off on me. I hope that don't, you know what I mean? But if you just keep on pursuing, and really, that's what we're called to do. Like, I'm not doing it to try to make you uncomfortable. I'm doing it really for you to see Christ in me, and then to hope that it takes. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, man, like it needs to spread.
Yeah.
Same as the gospel, it needs
Yeah.
to spread.
Yeah. Those two things
I
are
was talking to a guy over there
parallel.
yesterday, and he was like, "Oh man, so man, life's good." He's like, "What life are you living?" I was like, "I'm living a good life." He said, "Oh man, I want to get there." I said, "Well, let me tell you about this man named Jesus." I said, "Cause I'll tell you, buddy, wasn't nothing good about me, wasn't nothing good going on until I met Christ." I said, "Now you can break it down." So my brother Blake, he believes in God, but he don't really live for him. And I mean, you know, you have people like that.
Mm-hmm.
I said, let's think about it as Blake would. So, of course, I was trying to make the example. He was like, "Well, I just need I'm not talking about a spiritual life. I just want a better life." I said,
Right.
"Okay, well, let's, you know, for this purpose, for you, let's take Jesus out of it. Even though that's not my goal."
Yeah.
I said, I went from living like hell, living on the streets, drug addiction, this and that, to now I'm not. So naturally, in the natural, life's better.
Sure.
You went from a drug addict to now you're not.
Yeah.
I said, but you got to understand, like, restoration in the family, peace, love, and joy, fruits of the Spirit, like, good job, you know what I mean? Like, man, the Lord has provided and restored and just put everything that I ruined back together.
Mm-hmm.
I said, and then, okay, I had a thought, like, what if I would have went to a program that wasn't Christian-based? You know, that wouldn't have sustained me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, the first time it got stressful, the first time you would fall right back into old ways, old things. So it had to be a renewing of the mind. Like, something had to change. And then when it did, now it's just, man, something needs to change every day.
Right.
You know, I pursue the Lord every day and just want to look more and more like Him. Really, for myself,
Mm-hmm.
for my family, and for others. Like, He wants to work through us. He wants to be seen in other people's eyes who are unsaved through us.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it's important to do that. So, but like you said, religion, people give their life to the Lord and they just sit down. Like, oh, well, you know, I made it. I got my golden ticket. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, trying to help anybody else.
Right.
Like,
Or
trying
they'll-
to get the word out.
They'll max out their quota, right? That's another one that we see a lot, right? 2-3 years in, and they're out there dogging it, killing it. You know what I'm saying? Praying, preaching to everybody.
Right. If you stay in love, you'll stay on fire.
That's exactly right, and that's what happens. Is you know, and I can't. I'm not talking like I hadn't done it before, because trust me, I most definitely have. You get up and you're like, man, you know what? And there's times where you really need to step back and say to yourself, man, like in this moment, I've done enough, right? If you start getting to the point to where it starts being obligatory, or you feel to the point to where you've got to do it and do it and do it to be accepted or to be looked at proper, you need to take a step back and take a break.
If you ever think you've done enough, think about what Jesus done to get you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have a pretty decent comparative model.
Right.
So yeah, and that's one of those things in knowing, and I mean it's very semantic to say like quote unquote done enough, because you can say that and make it sound very much like, hey, you know what, I've done enough, I've worked enough, I've produced enough, and if you're in a productive mindset, you know, you go right ahead.
Yeah.
You know, those are I preached on that a couple years ago over a Christmas message. We were talking about that. For the wages of sin is death, but the free gift of God is eternal life through Christ Jesus. And you have to look at the verbiage there. Wages. Wages are what? That's your reward for working. It's your reward for striving. And you get into a culture, you know, like we live in, that's when you're comparing it to anywhere biblical, it's very Babylonian, right? It's very idol-based, idol-driven, me, and more me. And you'll get to the point to where everything that you do, you're working for it. And I mean working hard, striving. Got to get that 4-bedroom house. Got to get that brand new car. All right? Got to have the 401k. Got to do the OG, like the good old-fashioned American dream type shindig. You know, that's all fine and good until you burn out and get exhausted. Your marriage falls apart. You have no contact with your kids. You work 6 different jobs to do all that stuff at one time. And you're just really dead to the world in all other areas. But you have to understand, when you begin to operate in a place that's like Christ-centered, the free gift of God is eternal life. And what else? He said, I come to give you life and life abundant. So you've got to learn into those things, and that's one of those things like you're talking about with this guy. I can teach you how to be successful outside of the Lord, but it'll only last you so long, because if you don't change the way that you perceive success
That's right.
and what it takes to sustain that success, you'll fizzle and it'll fall apart. You'll understand that you actually need God to hold that thing together for
And
you.
one of the things he was like, man, I'm tired of struggling and paycheck to paycheck. I
Mhm.
said, bro, I live paycheck to paycheck. I was like, but nothing's paid late. Like, it's all paid on time.
Right.
Groceries in the fridge.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
And you still got some money left over.
right. You know, I'm on an allowance, be on my wife, so we got money.
Same. Yeah.
I work hard for it. She squirrels it back.
Yeah.
Yes,
We're
sir.
responsible adults. I mean that. Compliment each other well.
You're helpful.
Yes. Amen. And
Amen.
I just said, man, like, I remember not having nothing.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, nothing.
Yeah.
Half of us can say that. Like, it was rough. And then the things money can't buy, you gotta think about that. Like, man, I wake up free. You know what I mean? I go to bed free, stress free, addiction free. Like, man, come on. Like, you don't think you're rich, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Restoration alone. Like, even the opportunity to try to be a good dad to my kids
Amen.
that I had wrecked. When I say wrecked, like ruined it.
Amen, bro.
But man, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, oh my goodness.
Yep. And those are the types. Okay, so and with that as an example, because I've literally heard, I think, everybody in this room talk of that nature before, right? Because everybody's kind of got that in common. It's a very similar story back and forth. But what you've got to understand is that the more and the more that you remember that, the deeper and deeper your compassion for people gets.
Right.
Right. Like we said yesterday, compelled people compel people. So when I'm to the point to where I remember being off in it was trash, and I look around and I see 20 other people that are off in it, and I know that it's trash,
Yeah.
the first thing I want to do is not for my own sake to boast myself up, but it's to say, you don't have to deal with that.
That's right.
Bottom line. And like my one of my favorite things is, I remember listening to this sometime, I can't remember who said it. Somebody was like, you're better than that. And the dude was like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. Everything that I operated in pre-Jesus, I deserved 110% of it.
Amen.
Every last bit of it. He's better than that. And that's why I don't have to live like that anymore.
Amen.
And that's a fire word to sit and to say, you know what I'm saying? I'm not out here trying to say that I'm doing better than you, that I'm better than you, you know what I'm saying, that I had something that you don't have. You've got the exact same access to what I've got right now. And when you're ready for it, it's right there. You know what I'm saying? He's not running from you. He's not hiding from you. You have just as much as what I've got. And that's that bottom line down here on these notes. When you love people, you speak truth in love. It's not arguing theology and debating why you're wrong or running around and trying to bash people over the head with the word. You know, all the fun stuff that you see on Facebook and television. It's just real compassion, right? And the last thing we talked about was faith produces practical works. And so those are things that when you start looking at people like that, you'll get into, man, what are some different ways that I can do some practical things to show this person that I'm not so hyper spiritual that I'm no earthly good? Because sometimes we get so heavenly minded that we're not any good down here. Everything's so focused on up there, we forget the fact that he says on earth as it is in heaven. So focusing on the things of the kingdom is not necessarily a bad thing. It's just that if you forget that he wants to establish his kingdom here on earth, you'll talk about it like it's unattainable. Like you got to do something special to show up. And I think that's where everybody really gets turned off, is thinking, man, like I can't do enough to get there. It's not about getting there. We're trying to get it here. That's what we want. That's the whole point. So you don't do that through theological debates all the time. I've seen it work, but most times it's just a big face palm. We'll cut it right there this morning, guys, and we'll get into this last little bit. I really think we can finish this, but it might take us another week if we keep talking like this, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Tomorrow we'll talk about faith leading to spiritual perfection, which is always fun because nobody likes that word. And we'll have a good time. Amen. Anybody got any questions or other comments? Got a couple of extra minutes. No? Amen. Bless God. Shalom. Anybody got any prayer requests? Right here, Jason.
Yeah, it's so it gets to the point where needing to pray for him outdoes the care of like blasting him out.
Mm.
So John Green called me yesterday and was like, hey, I want to talk to you this weekend